Welcome to Golt Talk, your podcast for technology and innovation in the legal profession. If you're searching for solutions to revolutionize your legal practice, you're in the right place. 10 minutes pure, actionable product insights from CEOs shaping the future of legal technology. And here is your host, Tom Fennig.
Welcome to Golt Talk, your podcast for innovation and technology in the legal and compliance world. Pure, actionable insights from CEOs shaping the future of legal technology. I am your host, Tom Fennig, and today I warmly welcome Michael Grupp, founder and CEO of Bryter, based in Frankfurt, Germany. Great having you on the call, Michael.
Hi, Tom. Thanks for having me. Love being here.
Awesome. Hey, your company is certainly an institution in the German-speaking countries and beyond, US, for example, as well. So tell us a little bit about yourself as a CEO, and also, first and foremost, congratulations on receiving our Kai Technology certification after having been tested in the Lion Lab. Certainly a great testimony of the user centricity of your tool. So let's get started, a little bit about yourself, and then we dive right into the unique selling points and use cases of Bryter and Beeman AI, your latest addition to the platform.
Thank you, Tom. Well, yeah, thanks for taking the time and taking the effort to play around and look into Bryter. It can be complex at times, so thanks for walking the extra mile, and thanks for having been curious and looking into it. My background, I'm a lawyer by background. I want to say I had a very boring start. I worked as a litigator in a law firm and then basically got very curious about the startup world. I'm a creative person, I'm a builder. If you're creative and a builder, that's not always a great thing to be as a lawyer. So I want to live in the future a little bit. I like risk. I like to kind of envision things that are not here today yet. And I think as a lawyer, you're selling the status quo. You're like selling today. So you're maybe not the ideal lawyer. At least I thought I want to try out at least the tech part. So we built Bryter in 2018. Yeah, like almost 7 years ago. We'll turn 7 this year. So yeah, that's what I did then. So there was a startup before that. We got acquired in 2017. So I had a while to think about what I want to do next. I kind of didn't want to go back into law. So building another company was it. And I got used to this and I enjoy it and I haven't regretted it so far. Bryter kind of came out of that idea to basically give lawyers a way to express their thoughts and their workflows in a digital way. We had many metaphors over the life of Bryter, what we call that. Lego for lawyers, of course. I sometimes compare it to an AutoCAD. So it's like a digital way to draw your decision making and then turn it into a digital thing. That was kind of the original idea. But I want to be honest, there's a Bryter in every decade and in every geo. I mean, people came up with that idea to turn your thinking into a blueprint and then digitize it. I think in every country. There's probably a Bryter in the 90s and the 2000s. And we were the company that did this at the time when venture capital discovered legal, when the companies were ready to buy cloud-based technology, and when sort of everything merged together and software started to look good. Like old enterprise software was always a little bit gray, and Bryter was one of the tools that made an effort to kind of make this user-friendly and make this more usable for everyday work. And yeah, this is where we are.
So we are already very, very strongly in the USP. User-friendliness, if I describe it in my own words, is a workflow, and you call it low-coding, no-coding platform. Maybe we can go a little bit into this. Now everybody talks about AI. You've just released Beeman AI as an agentic addition to the traditional Bryter version. Maybe we can stay on this for another minute or two to really make sure what makes Bryter special.
So yeah, we started Bryter with the idea that a lawyer needs to be able to deliver something different than an email with a word attachment. That was like the core belief, that there's something else you use to deliver a service. So you want to deliver an app, you want to interact with your client in a digital way. So Bryter is an app builder, and for this app builder to work for lawyers, it needed to be, one, focused on the legal profession, which means it needs to have all the features that lawyers have on their kind of daily desk, which is a big focus on rules and decision making, but also kind of having that built into your tasks that you actually do, like creating a document, creating a process where you handle documents, handle decisions. And this kind of built together in one tool was not existent in the workplace, which also gets us to competitors. If you look into the corporate space, there are big, let's say, ITSM or service digitization platforms like a ServiceNow that has, I think, the same idea in mind from an IT perspective. And if people in the legal teams use that, I think you may have also had like some insights into this in the past. You realize that you can probably get to the same result, but in a very different way. And it's harder for lawyers to be involved as a domain expert, to be like able to change the template, change the rules, like be active in this. So on the corporate side, we want to be a more legal focused and more user-friendly ServiceNow. And on the law firm side, I mean, I think frankly, we compete with Power Automate, Microsoft Power Automate as the general app builder. But I'm saying this quite openly. There are things in Power Automate that are clunky, they're not that easy. And you have to have a document logic combined with your decisioning logic, combined with your kind of workflow pieces in one go for this to really work. And then we talk about all the little intricate details about how people work on their daily basis, that, you want to have a specific cockpit front end, you want to have a specific look and feel to this, and this is not so easy to do with a horizontal tool. So yeah.
Can we talk about the 3 most seen use cases where Bryter is kind of automating the workflows?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we have to differentiate between corporate teams and law firms. Corporate teams think more in boxes and structures. I think in corporates, it's definitely intake tools, like all kind of intake tools to the business, where you have a legal front door that collects requests and provides self-service information to the business. And in those legal front doors, you have, of course, document generation, but also regulatory approval mechanisms in there that combine a decision-making mechanism, like, am I allowed to do this? But combine it with an action step. For example, do I need approval? Do I need to sign a document? Like this kind of thing. So there's like a big corporate use case group, and it's not just one. Like, you can see if you bring this into like gift and hospitality areas, or if this is more of an internal process or about a document self-service part. In the law firm, on the law firm side of things, it's more individual, and it really depends what the law firm does. So it's hard to say like this is the top 3, because the law firms are so diverse. I would say they're one of the top like kind of internal use cases at the moment is probably client onboarding and also client billing. There's a trend in like timesheet review, which is a trendy one. And then on the outbound ones, I think number 1 is still like a repetitive advice where you know that your client has the same question all the time. So let's say, for example, in employment matters on a repetitive level. This is like one in the law firm space, but the strength of the no-code, low-code, let's say, toolkit lies in the fact that different law firms can build different things depending on who they service. So we have super big law firms. We also have some medium law firms. We have them in the US, UK, and DACH or continental Europe, and their use cases vary a little bit. Americans are more financial service focused. The Europeans are more commercial, HR, real estate. So there's a bit of a difference in use case.
But I think what's critical also for the audience to differentiate Bryter from other tools in the market, you start with defining the process. You start with refining the workflow behind the process. So it's not going after generic questions and document reviews. It's a little bit, the other way around. I want to know what's coming in and I want to know what's going out. And once those 2 ends have been defined, I can deploy Bryter.
Yes, but it comes from a, let's say, necessity we discovered over the years, which is if you sell software, ideally you don't sell a tool, you sell a solution to a problem, and ideally you sell value. Like in a perfect world, you define a problem that costs you money on a daily basis, and then you are able to provide a solution to that, and people can immediately understand before and after, and then basically factor the cost of Bryter into this and have a great ROI. And that ROI-driven approach, even though it sounds like a buzzword, is, I still think, the best way to sell software, because it assures that people don't buy vaporware and they buy it for just having it. They actually solve a real problem. But that problem needs to cost you money in a business and be a real pain. So that means like you have to look into the use case, and which is why, like, in a perfect world, we would sell Bryter as a Lego box, and everybody has the Lego box as a like strategic ability, like the enabler. But the reality is that people buy it as a solution to one problem, and that meant we had to learn to first discover that problem. So we go there, we talk to the law firms or to the in-house teams and say, what's your problem? They describe it as, this is the before scenario, this is like how things are today. We map the use case, we map the workflow, start, finish, what do you want to change? Then you map it digitally and then you turn it into a solution. And usually during the sales process, like even before people sign the contract, they have tested it. Like there's an actual like prototype at least, or an MVP that allows them to test the new process in a way. And then, yeah, you just like save time and money essentially immediately after you basically start working with us.
So just to summarize, as long as I am able to define the workflow, whether it is in compliance, in data privacy, in contracts, in traditional legal services, or in law firms, billing, onboarding, whatsoever, can be applied in all these scenarios.
Yes, 100%.
Cool. Now, going into this second pair of questions, partners and competitors, you already talked about ServiceNow, for example, Power Automate. There's an interesting polarity right now with the workflow engines and then generic AI co-pilots. And there is some confluence in the middle to be expected. Maybe you can touch upon this a little bit and also bring in some names into this equation.
Yeah, 100%. I'd love to. I mean, this is something we discuss a lot at the moment. Like, so the world changes, right? If you build software, you don't just patent a thing and then you go to the beach. You keep innovating. 3 years ago, GenAI comes and you experience the, let's say, the time to value it requires you to get a workflow to be digital, like to kind of be modeled. It's long enough for people to basically think, I want something quicker, I want something easier to basically get started. In areas where people had no use case or where people had no idea how to start, people basically start with productivity of the individual, you can say. Yeah, they can basically start to automate themselves before they automate the workflow, because automating a workflow takes more time than automating yourself. And also, I think, frankly, lawyers prefer to have superpowers on their own before giving superpowers to the team or to give superpowers to the org, right? Well, I mean, it's maybe a fun observation, but I still think that if you can have superpowers on your own, you like that first. So when the GenAI tools came, I mean, there was, of course, case text, or maybe before case text, ChatGPT enters the market. People realize it's a text-based thing. Lawyers are text-based professionals. They realize, wow, this is powerful. I think the first company that leverages legal data is Case Text, gets acquired by TR. Case Text is, I think, one of the first ones. Copilot from Microsoft follows, and with that, of course, Harvey enters the game, and now after Harvey, you have like a group of tools that are following. What we see over the last 2 years is that the way CoCounsel or Case6 could compete with ChatGPT, Harvey could compete with CoCounsel, Legora can compete with Harvey, national providers, small teams can compete with Harvey. So the whole AI assistant world is one where building is relatively fast in a relatively small team. You can get to value incredibly fast. And then people have a chat and they start working with that. And now they want to go one step further. They want to do a little bit more. We always jokingly say at Bryter, you want some action. Like you want that this thing doesn't just like inform or kind of like propose. You want it to execute, like do the thing end to end. And this is what has changed in the game, because when we started Bryter, this front-end piece of individual productivity didn't exist. Now with the GenAI companies, you have something that enables yourself for your daily tasks. But if you want to take the next step, you now need workflows or agentic reasoning or something. And whatever that is, it's a little bit more vertical and individual, which requires you to either build it out in a point solution or allow people to do it themselves. And that is where the workflow builders and the agent builders kind of converge. Now we have the workflows, the GenAI tools have the AI assistants, and this is where now the two worlds meet. And I love it, frankly. I mean, you know, that's the best of both worlds now getting together. This is why we decided, look, you know what? The world needs Beeman, which is an AI assistant optimized for an automation step afterwards. We're now in the AI assistant game. The AI assistants will have to add additional functionality in the back. So let's see how this plays out. I think there are 3.5 million lawyers in the world. There's a huge market.
That's for sure. Now that you talked about Beeman AI, what does Beeman do on top of the traditional Bryter?
Good question. So first of all, Beeman is an AI assistant like the ones you know from the market. First of all, you have a chat. The chat allows you to, you know, do everything you do on ChatGPT, but in a compliant way. So it like summarizes a document. It goes through bigger documents. It has like a number of functions like translate or like rewrite things. That's like almost table stakes, I would say. I mean, we can do it. We're proud of it. It works, but it's table stakes in today's market. We have a number of legal specific functions that I think only few of the assistants can do. For example, you can upload a playbook. even a long one, and you can benchmark it against documents. So you have like legal specific assistive functions that are not easy to do. You have content in there. So there's like already like vertical contents from like different jurisdictions. There's now more publisher content coming. So you have that in there. You have the Word plugin. You have all these drafting capabilities. This is still new and people like it, but we're all building against time. And I would say this is like over time, most of the assistants will have features like that. We then have, of course, the classic like due diligence features like an extract and all those things on top of the classic assistant. What makes it special is that it is built with the use cases that we have seen over the last 6 to 7 years in mind. So I know that some of the things people want to do are not just a chat, they are more focused on a specific team, on a specific problem where you have things like document handling. Like you review your documents, now you want to sort them, you want to apply some rules, you want to tag them, you want to maybe generate a new document, you have all these flows. And this is like, if you start from a chat perspective, this is all new to you because you have to build in sort of a production lane. We have the production lane. It's easier for us to add the smart assistant and embed it into that structure. So yes, to answer your question, what does it do on top of Bryter? It gives you the flexibility of the AI system, but having in mind that you later go into automation.
Yeah. Let's move on to implementation and cost. Obviously, it's not just a simple Word plugin. There's a little bit more implementation power needed. Can you give us some timelines that you see and maybe some bottlenecks that you need to overcome?
Yeah, so Beeman that's really like easy. Like you can have it in 15 minutes if you want to have it and try it out. That's not an issue. It's browser based. I mean, the Word plugin is probably needs your IT if you're a corporate, but I mean, that's fast. Bryter in theory is fast as well, but the truth is that you will want some time with our team to basically define the workflow, get it started, bring in a partner. Like we work with partners to also make this possible. So this can range from like building in a couple of days to weeks or even months to basically define the use case and build it out. As I mentioned in the intro, I think more than half of our customers, when they become a customer and the contract is signed, they already have built the first version of the workflow because like during the sales process, we build it out to visualize it, to show it to the team, to kind of demo it. So there is already some work in there. But the time, I mean, it's a couple of weeks to get it started. Most important thing is really to map your internal workflow, to understand what you want to do, define the stakeholders that are involved. There is some change management there that you basically, who you want to bring in. The building itself, like the actual digital work, that's not the hard part. The hard part is the kind of define the before and after, define the right?
I completely agree. It's the strategy, it's the change story, it's the adoption, it's the client management, all the above. And that's something which means disruption of status quo, and that's not easy.
Yeah, 100%.
So that means, I think overall, we are talking about a roadmap. We're not just talking about the Bryter implementation, we are talking about a system change to improve user satisfaction, speed, agility, and all the bells and whistles that we hope a modern legal and compliance department brings with it. So I think that's a very important part. It's not simply switching the button to AI. It is really a systemic approach to change.
100%. Yeah.
Okay. So weeks or months depends upon the complexity of the client. Large law firms, large enterprises, certainly not something to be done within weeks.
Yeah. But I have to say that some of the customers, they come with like 1 or 2 use cases that they already have mapped out, and they have something to show, right? It's important they have something in mind that, and you need to, if you procure budget, if you talk to your team and you bring everybody on board, best thing you have something in your hands already. Like there's some nucleus of an idea, of a prototype, and this is usually what we have. And most of the time, this is a dedicated use case that is smaller than the vision, right? So people start with a small one and then it kind of iterates into a bigger one.
Let's go to pricing.
Beeman is not very expensive. You can like really start with even a couple of thousands for a team per year. So it's really like a starter package. So let's say we start somewhere between 5,000 to 10,000 per year in average. Why do we start here? Why not less? Because you usually get a customer success manager and you usually get somebody who helps you, right? And because of that, like we usually have a use case area that is in that range. Our customers are in the mid 5-digit ranges in terms of budget usually. So this is like usually where you go with like 2 or 3 use cases, you then basically expand.
And the size of the customer is certainly not just a few hundred employees. They are starting with a couple of thousand and at least a critical mass of lawyers involved.
Yes, but I mean, your problem that you're solving needs a certain scale. That doesn't mean that your org needs a certain scale. We have some boutique firms that are working on mass litigation projects or things on behalf of somebody where it's them who are dealing with the problems at scale. So they can totally work on a bigger problem and use Bryter, even though the firm only has, 40 lawyers, because they're focused on that. But yes, you're right. Like on a corporate side, you usually have a legal team that is faced with the challenge of scale their legal services across a usually global enterprise and like at least multi-jurisdiction, like different time zones. So that's like a problem, how to make that accessible, self-service, organize it, measurable. Yeah, I mean, there, of course, you talk about an org that is a couple of thousand employees usually. So big scale-ups, bigger SMEs, and then, of course, corporations. And the law firm side, again, it really varies. Like we have small law firms that are boutique firms, but dealing with bigger things.
As well. I can tell you, time has been flying. It's probably one of the longest podcasts that we have recorded, but one of the most refreshing and insightful ones as well. It's been a pleasure talking to you, someone who really is an enthusiast and evangelist in the legal space, both in Germany and beyond. Thank you very much for your time. I know you've been traveling a lot. You've just released Human AI. Appreciate you being on the Golt.ai podcast. Wishing you all the best and thanks so much. Take care.
Thanks, Tom. All the best to you. Take care. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.